The Isuzu UTE A-League men's competition is back at Allianz Stadium. A beautiful, mild summer day for Sydney FC against the Wellington Phoenix. Plenty of travelling Phoenix fans getting into Allianz, and Sky Blues back in familiar surrounds. They had the Wrexham game on July the 15th as the most recent time Sydney FC played here at all, but they've had to wait from April until 2026 for the chance to get back in here. It was a dramatic 3-2 win for Sydney FC last time they played an A-League game here as well, getting the better of Newcastle. Today they will be looking to defend home turf against a Wellington Phoenix team who have proven themselves to be quite feisty on the road so far this season. Here's what round 13 has looked like in the Isuzu UTE A-League so far this season. A draw earlier today for the Mariners against Macarthur, wins for Adelaide, Newcastle, Brisbane and Melbourne City, and a couple of those quite a turn-up for the books. How about the drama of Adelaide United beating Victory last night? So this match will conclude round 13. Getting towards the halfway point of the season, you can see Auckland, due to losing to Melbourne City on Friday, are now vulnerable to being leapfrogged by Sydney FC today, and they would have a game in hand. How about the Jets flying up to third on the table? Brisbane steadying with their big win in Perth, and Macarthur, even though they were held to a draw today, still holding on to their spot in the top six. Adelaide best of the rest after their win against the Victory. And then Wellington know that they can jump up to 18 points with a win today and put themselves right back on the precipice of those finals places. Now, Sydney FC against the Wellington Phoenix will always hold a special place in the hearts of both A-League fans and Sydney FC fans and anyone with a connection to Italian football, because Alessandro Del Piero, now almost 13 years ago tomorrow, in fact, January 19th, 2013, he netted 4 times against the Phoenix at the stadium that used to stand on this old site, the Sydney Football Stadium. Sydney FC won 7-1 that day, and Del Piero, he loved playing the Phoenix. He scored 6 times, including 4 in that one game. 13 years ago tomorrow. I'm not sure Sydney FC are going to give us that sort of a scoreline today, but you never know, as we see the Isuzu UTE tunnel cam. Ryan Grant, the Sydney FC captain, about to walk out onto the pitch. He loves playing against Wellington as well. He scored 4 times against them over the course of his lengthy A-League career. They are his best opponent for goal scoring, all the way back to 2012 when he netted against them for the very first time. Alex Rufer leads the Phoenix out. Their last away game was a stirring win in Redcliffe against the Brisbane Roar, and they will be hoping for something similar at a venue where they have won twice over the journey. Most recently, January 2023. You can see the win probability skewed hugely in Sydney's favour. Wellington, of course, might be looking to tap into the spirit of that 2023 win when Sydney FC missed 2 late penalties. The venue looks a picture. The pitch, hopefully, will be playing nicely. And the Sydney FC fans and the travelling Phoenix contingent looking good for this one. Let's go to the lineup. Sydney FC, no reason to change the starting 11 after their 3-0 win against Macarthur last Saturday. A couple of switches on the bench, though, and potential A-League debuts for 2 players. 17-year-old Nico Alvaro and 18-year-old Marin France wait in the wings. And they're not even the youngest player on the bench. 16-year-old Akol Akon keeps his spot as a super sub as well. Piero Quispe, the Peruvian, was able to find the back of the net for the first time against Macarthur, and also, in addition to the goal, arguably his best showing so far in a Sydney FC shirt. He continues to build into the season. He's a great technician, and will there be more on the way today? Taking a look at the Wellington team now, 1 change to the starting 11. Carlo Armiento returns from suspension after he was sent off a fortnight ago against the Brisbane Roar. It pushes Lucas Kelly-Heald to the bench. His brother Albie Kelly-Heald is restored as backup goalkeeper, and 45-cap international Bill Tuiloma could be in line to play his very first A-League game at age 30. He played in League A, the first ever New Zealander to do so, and has played almost 200 times in American Major League Soccer. So watch out for the 28, Bill Tuiloma, coming off the bench at some point today. Carlo Armiento is the only member of Wellington's starting 11 today to have actually scored in his career against Sydney FC. That was back in November 2022 when he was playing for the Brisbane Roar. And sitting on the bench, the only other player in the Wellington squad today to have ever actually scored against Sydney FC is Nikola Milajuznic, but he loves playing against them. He has scored 5 times in 16 appearances over his career. Ufuk Talay, happy to be back on the winners list last week, and he'll be hoping that his team can continue the good form, because top spot on the ladder is on offer today, should he be able to oversee another winning effort. Giancarlo Italiano will be acutely aware of Wellington's decent but not incredible record against Sydney FC. 18 wins to 27 head-to-head and 8 draws over the A-League journey. Today's referee is Sam Kelly. Assistants are Brad Wright and Emma Kotzbeck, and the 4th official is Jake Rose. And in the VAR booth, should an extra pair of eyes be required, are Tim Didascos and Casey Rybelt. So back at Allianz Stadium for the first time since April 20, 2025 for some Isuzu UTE A-League men's action. Sydney FC to kick off, attacking the left of your screens in the first half as the countdown takes us to kick off. So it's Sydney FC against the Wellington Phoenix to conclude round 13 in the Isuzu UTE A-League men's, and joining me for this one is Andy Harper. Harps, great to see Allianz Stadium back up and running for Sydney FC.
Yeah, g'day, Teo. Let's hope it keeps running. It's been a long hiatus for Sydney. Major renovations on the playing surface, which at kickoff looks great, and not a bad first up test. It's the first full-on game of football since the renovation. 134 mils of rain has dropped between yesterday and today, so if it's going to survive that, it'll survive anything.
It's a great point for those of you watching from New Zealand or from further afield. It couldn't have been put through a sterner test with the weather, which did force the match between the Mariners and MacArthur to be postponed by almost 24 hours, and was played earlier this afternoon. As a result of that venue being underwater yesterday, they had to wait for the tide to go out to drain the venue. Here's a long ball down the left. Pat Wood coming off a goal against MacArthur last weekend. A bustling run, and the ball eventually finds its way out after a bit of defending from Mandrake James to see it over the line.
Well, Wellington will come into this game, Teo, fancying their half a chance, actually. Not because Sydney have presented any weaknesses, but their comeback against Adelaide at home last week, there's Paddy Wood just running the ball out. Their home match last week, to see them come back from a 2-goal deficit against Adelaide, will give them a little bit of a boost, you'd imagine, and a little bit of activity in the transfer window to boot. And yeah, they've got reasonable performance form here at this stadium.
And Ifiani Eze leading the line. There is no cause he won't chase. He's body-checked Harrison Devonish-Mears here, and an easy foul decision for the referee Sam Kelly. Eze is the sort of player who will hair after every long ball and every back pass and make it difficult.
Well, he's the type of player, I must say, that to whom I take a shining, because he's a chance of turning nothing into something because of perseverance. He's got some quite clever touches, and he knows where the goal is. And you've made the point once or twice already that if he keeps going like this, irrespective of how the rest of the team shapes up, you'd imagine there'd be a few suitors for the Eze signature from this point on.
5 goals so far this season in 12 appearances coming into today. It's Harrison Devonish-Mears. 6 clean sheets this season. Plays out from the back to the left side of defence. Then Garuccio with the touch. Alex Grant. Wellington happy to stand off and watch Marcel Tisserand in possession now. The midfield he ventures. Junior, and not able to keep the ball was Tiago Quintal. Played back to Eamon McCarron, the 18-year-old Phoenix keeper. Pressed very high by Pat Wood, got the ball away in the nick of time. And problems for Tim Payne as he was closed down by 2 opponents. Sydney FC have spilled possession. Ocon is wiped out, but in the meantime, Sydney escape with the ball. Quintal. And now Campazano Ryan Grant out to Tiago Quintal. Wants to cut it onto his left side, scoops across and headed away by Alex Rufer. Sydney FC do win possession back though. A couple of encouraging touches for 19-year-old Tiago Quintal. This is Piero Quispe. His back pass here, a little bit awkward for Alex Grant, and another robust competitor, Corbin Piper, let him know he was there.
He's finding his place at the front of the Wellington formation. I think he entered the A-League fray basically as a defender, but he's showing certainly he's way more versatile than that. I think his tango with Eze up front is one that's got a lot of potential.
Already, both Phoenix attackers have had a moment where they've established a physical bench line for the game. Looks like a handball from Eze, and referee Sam Kelly agrees. The Nigerian striker just stooping a little too low. The ball caught his hand. Good eagle-eyed reffing from Sam Kelly, but Sydney was short-lived in possession. Eze, ball to no one in particular up the middle, and Devonish Mears will play it out first touch. Yuli and Locon Jr. playing the ball back and forth. Now Tisserand. The next pass all important. Campazano is going to chase after a long ball, and it seemed like both central midfielders got stuck down at the wrong end of the pitch there for Sydney FC, and Tisserand with a speculative attempt. Now Mandrake James working with Isaac Hughes. Campazano making life difficult for Hughes. Payne. Well, Pat Wood has caught Tim Payne late, and he stayed down, and now the whistle goes, a belated whistle. And the New Zealand right back, who's had his injury concerns this season, he stays down.
Well, it's more a case of, it's clearly a foul. To the extent that that didn't tickle for Tim Payne, it was more the fact that his follow-through caught Pat Wood. I think the bigger issue was why it took so long for the referee to decide that was a foul.
Good luck finding the shin guards in there for Tim Payne. His socks are low. I'm sure they're hiding under those low socks. So a couple of decisions early for Sam Kelly, the referee. Here's McCarron. He's got a big brace on his left leg today. Wellington trying to find a clean passage out of their defensive half. Perhaps Kosuke Nagasawa can make it happen. Drake James, Nagasawa, well, he's untangled himself from Tiago Quintal. Now Rufer over to Matt Sheridan. Sheridan has taken possession. He's got support coming through the left. Rami Nazarene back outside the area he goes. Alex Rufer clips it out to the left flank. Carlo Armiento using that left foot of his and punched away emphatically by Devonish Mears. Exler with the header. Returned by Payne. Armiento shot on sight and a good save. Devonish Mears down and putting the ball behind for a corner kick. Carlo Armiento back in the team and back into the thick of the action.
And that left foot of his back into the swing. Firstly, this is the delivery which caused a little bit of consternation for Devonish Mears, but not nearly as much as that shot. The diffusion of which was excellently executed by Harrison Devonish Mears. Great save, good action from Armiento, sprightly from the Knicks.
He's the one they do want shooting outside the box in the build-up. Sheridan had a tempting chance to shoot from distance, but opted against it, waited for the left foot hammer to appear. Here's Nazarine's corner. Devon Ishmere's double fist down, and then across the face. So a good chance there for Rufer, but ultimately his attempts to miss the pack of players, he also went wide of the target.
Well, two lovely left feet on show for Wellington, and this wasn't one of them. Armiento to set up the corner, Nazarine to take the corner, Rufer to skew the chance.
Sydney playing out from the back are going to be pressed all the way up to the line here. Gordon Piper again. And Draker James keeping his feet as Patwood goes to ground. Quickly taken throw by Payne. Piper now crunching rise over the top of another opponent. He's throwing his body about, and Ben Garuccio is his latest victim.
Just caught by that leading arm, Corbin Piper. Garuccio, shall we say, a little irritated.
Perfectly placed crowd and effects microphone there to pick up that conversation. Garuccio not happy, thought the elbow should have drawn a greater sanction.
Back there.
So after 10 scoreless minutes, it's an even game. Phoenix with the best chance to score so far. Nagasawa. Nazarine. Looking for a gap to exploit, can't find it, and the ball volunteered up for a goal kick. 2 goals this season for Rami Nazarine, though. Never scored against Sydney FC. It'll be his 10th appearance against them today. Garuccio from deep at left back. Patwood. To Ryan Grant. Sydney can venture into attack. Grant wasting no time. Long and direct towards Campethano, but headed away by James. Nagasawa taken out. And Phoenix emerged with the ball regardless. Armiento turns back to Sheridan. Now, gradually, the Phoenix are starting to become the more comfortable team in possession. What can they construct here? Nagasawa. Sheridan with a little burst. He's able to win his team a throw in. Back pass, James the sidestep, Wood fouled him. And again, Patwood is keeping the Phoenix centre-backs honest. Getting a second start of the season today, having scored in his first start last week.
Well, he's had to be extraordinarily patient, Patwood, and work very, very hard to maintain the rage to get this, in the view of his career so far, extended opportunity with the first team. He's earned it. He's there on merit. He's scored a couple of good goals. A good contributor, been rewarded. It's his now, you'd imagine, to lose as a place in the team. Which is sitting second, but with a win goes top.
Here's Yuli. Okon Engstler. They want to get a feel for the game, these two Sydney central midfielders. They have such an important role to play, but they've been starved of possession so far through 13 minutes. Here's Okon Jr. He plays it to Piero Kisbe. And Yuli. It's all a bit helter-skelter, so back to the goalkeeper to reset. Tisserand. Grant, past Sheridan, great first touch from Grant. And he veers inside, still defenders to deal with. Okon Jr. and now Wood. Doesn't want want to shoot from outside the box. Quintal cuts onto his left side. And there were two Sky Blues waiting at the far post, but neither could lunge for the ball.
The two Sky Blues to whom you refer, Tay, were the two fullbacks. Matt Sheridan getting it all wrong. He could have made that intercept and stopped the attack, but it's Ryan Grant, the outlet, who continues the action. And there he is, Ryan Grant. Probably fancied, I think he might have been in an offside position while he didn't play at the ball. Outside him was the left fullback, Benny Garuccio. It's the first real time that Wellington's press has been outplayed. It's been the decisive factor of the opening 15 minutes here. Wellington's work in the Sydney half of the field, just like that. Most of the energy being led by Piper.
Well, he called it a tango early, and there were two tangoing there. Eze and Piper working together to hurry Sydney into clearing the ball and giving possession back. Isaac Hughes to Mandrake James. Over the head of Eze. Yuli and Ocon Jr. Now Tisserand. So Tisserand. Possession coughed up. Eze goes to ground. Legally, Alex Grant took the ball. Giancarlo Italiano outside his technical area, appealing for the foul. Not forthcoming. Eze back to his feet in Sydney FC with the ball. Campazano. Now Yuli. Garuccio inside to Kispe. Back to Garuccio. And Kispe with a really nice pass, but just a little bit overweighted. Ever so slightly too much. And the best efforts of Ben Garuccio couldn't cut it back.
Just too much on the pass from Kispe, but it's his first real moment to build the attack for Sydney. There's the, for all really intents and purposes, to be a foul on Eze. Chiefy's still going on about it. Alex Rufer in the break of play asked the ref about it. I think they're reasonable questions.
So as Phoenix take their time over the goal kick, let's throw it down to Daniel Garb. Garby, good afternoon.
Well, isn't it great to be back at Allianz Stadium? Sydney FC's first game here since April last year. And the fans have certainly got a pep in their step as a result. Leichhardt Oval is fantastic. We all know that, especially when the sun's shining and the fans are packed on the hill. But this is a world-class stadium, and there was a big buzz about the place as the fans came into this venue. The Cove are in full voice. There's a nice crew of Wellington fans here at the moment as well, and the pitch is holding up as well as you could hope, considering the deluge across New South Wales in the past 48 hours.
And Garby, safe to say, Ufotale has been the more placid of the two gaffers so far, whereas Giancarlo Italiano is riding every kick of the ball.
There's a strut about Chiefy in the technical area at the moment, that's for sure. I think he's enjoying the fact that their form has just stabilised a bit over the last fortnight, and I think he quite likes the way in which his team is set up early on. So, yeah, they're enjoying their start, the Phoenix, and their manager is representing that right now.
Sydney FC, decision time again. Their centre-backs will be charged with the responsibility of turning defence into attack. Well, that Alex Grant pass perhaps shows the conundrum that they're trying to solve through 17 minutes so far. Phoenix back in possession. Isaac Hughes. Now Matt Sheridan. Kazuki Nagasawa. From left to right, the attack trying to stretch the Sydney defence and find a gap. Nazarine's pass, a little skinny. Garuccio. Alex Grant and now Kispe. Immediately caught in possession by Ifiani Eze, and so Wellington take the ball back over. Carlo Armiento breaking out to the left wing. Can they find him in shooting range again? The ball's over on the right this time. Payne. Things will stop for a throw-in.
Well, it seems after this opening period and how long Wellington can extend this, that Sydney are blinded in the gaze of the stare put on them by Wellington, led by Piper and Eze.
Armiento, Nazarene, little step over flick. Not able to link up with either of the other attackers in the vicinity though. Kispe, no choice but to turn around and play the ball back to Yuli.
I think one of the things that's helping Wellington, and if it's been identified by Chiefy, and well done, but Sydney's two defensive midfielders, Ocon and Yuli, both start very deep. And so a press on the first two central defenders, followed by a midfielder, takes out virtually that midfield combination for Sydney. And that release pass through midfield just hasn't been available because, for all intents and purposes, Yuli and Ocon play in the same line, flat, square with each other, and they're just being picked off. Here's another example.
It's spoken into existence, beautifully analysed as it unfolded before our eyes, and now Nazarene with a sweeping left-footed cross, but there's no one home for the Phoenix, and Devon Ishmeers will collect. So is there a solution in the run? It's not even a quarter of the way through the day's action, and Ufatale now is stepping out to the edge of his technical area, shouting at someone to try to clean things up.
Well, I think they need to do things a little bit quicker. And then I think in the build-up, Ocon and Yuli need to be a little bit staggered, because at the moment when Wellington go, they cover all four of those central players, the two midfielders and the two central defenders. Now, you can play through that if your movement wide with the ball is sharp and quick. Sydney have done it a couple of times and got away, but the breakdown has happened before they've had the chance to hit that pass out of the centre zone.
Now enjoying a longer chain of passes here as Garuccio, McCarron committed, and he had to make a save in the end. He's received a big blow to the body for his trouble. Ben Garuccio able to fire the ball at him. And whether it was Garuccio himself or the ball that has caused this discomfort, Eamon McCarron is down and hurt.
Well, it was very brave in the end from the youngster. You wouldn't be surprised if he copped knees in the chest as Garuccio legitimately went in for the ball. It was there to be contested. Nice ball over the top. Grant to Garuccio, the ball skids. There was a little half moment where McGowan had to make the correct judgment, and then that's incredibly brave goalkeeping. And it's really heavy contact. Benny Garuccio straight there to see that the keeper's all right. There was totally legitimate challenge from both players, but certainly McCarron's put himself in a really compromised position.
And we saw Albie Kelly-Heald, the backup goalkeeper for the Phoenix today, sent to just go and take a brief warm-up, wait for the word to come from the physio and the doctor. Eamon McCarron, only his 5th appearance. And backup goalkeeper for the Phoenix has been a bit of a hot seat. Kelly-Heald is back today, but it was Joseph Chalabi last week. And McCarron back on his feet and ready to defend the resulting corner. Phoenix away fans and the home fans showing good sportsmanship to applaud him back to his feet. He retakes his post between the sticks. Sydney FC have a corner. Kispe tumbling to the near post. Campazano able to bring the ball under his command. Wheels onto a cross. And Ryan Grant was the player challenging in the air. Both teams think it's theirs, and the throw-in will go Sydney FC's way. Grant. Eze picks off his pass, has support from Nagasawa, plays it almost to himself, has to go lunging after his own little dink, and he's able to reel it in with the help of Rufa. And now Nagasawa involved again, but this time he misses Piper onto the head of Garuccio. Campazano for Sydney. Ocon Jr., Quintal, back to Campazano. Every time the ball speed picks up, Sydney looking almost a little uncomfortable, like the Phoenix want them to just bite off a little more than they can chew. And Draker James with a challenge on Wood, and the ball leaves the vicinity before Wood can go and press. Kisbay. Ocon Jr. maybe caught in two minds about where he wanted to send that pass. The end result is over to Carlo Armiento, but Sheridan's given it away. Grant working with Ocon Jr. and Tisserand. A few mistakes creeping in for both teams. It feels like this is a big phase of play for who's going to hold their nerve and keep their concentration. Yuli. Garuccio. Kisbay. Corbin Piper pressing too aggressively, and a free kick. Straight away ball at the feet of Kisbay, and free kick taken quickly. Quintal. Ocon Jr. Through goes Quintal. Bounce back to his feet. Ryan Grant. Ocon Jr. Kisbay. And now Wood. Trying to use his strength to hold off Nagasawa. Quintal. Ryan Grant cuts it back. Quintal. McCarron saves, and it's cleared away. Tim Payne first to react. Eamon McCarron has shaken off the knock to make an excellent save. The Phoenix aren't off the hook just yet. Alex Grant, and Wood is going to chase a big first touch. And a goal kick the result, well defended by Draker James.
Well, this is excellent work from Quintal. I'm not sure if Ryan Grant was expecting that, but the pass was soft enough from Quintal for the skipper to get it, and it's quite a brilliant save. He's just had his ribs rattled, but he's got himself to a point where he's saved the ball that's gone effectively behind him. It's an excellent piece of work to keep the score at 0. Sydney's best moment of the game.
A really long chain of passes too, only interrupted by a free kick, which they then took instantaneously to try to keep the Phoenix pinned inside their defensive third. So both teams have enjoyed a spell on top. We're still waiting for the opening goal. Hughes. Rufa, neat 1-2 with Payne. Eze going to ground. Even with the slip though, he's not totally out of the conversation. A couple of crunching challenges, and the Phoenix is going to be the beneficiary. Rufa was the first one subject. Devonish Mears has charged out of his penalty area to argue alternatively, and there's a yellow card that has been brandished first of the game. Thiago Quintal becomes the first player to receive a yellow.
Well, Quintal's got the ball on that evidence. Not 100% sure, to be honest. The ref, you couldn't say rushed to his whistle, so he took some time to cogitate on what he'd seen.
Sydney were vehement in their disagreements. Ryan Grant still arguing the toss, and Devonish Mears came rushing out of his area to protest. So,
well, here we go.
The view that Sam Kelly had, VAR saying nothing more to the story, but the view that Sam Kelly had may be considerably different than one the goalkeeper has looking down the ground.
Yeah, and that one's far less controversial than this time a week ago when Paul Ocon really should have got a red card, in which case shouldn't be playing here today. So that was from Quintal, nowhere in the same register.
Devonish Mears' focus has to return to goalkeeping. seemingly only asking for 2 in the wall. That is a free kick a very long way out, but when you have Carlo Armiento in the team, long-range shots are very much something you have to prepare for. Devin Ishmaels has added a 3rd player to the wall. He's just rearranging Campuzano here to make sure he's in the right spot. Goalkeeper's happy with his wall. Phoenix have got 2 players over the set piece. Will it be a direct shot from Armiento? He's going off a stutter step run up, and he fires with a big deflection and in. Carlo Armiento, the left-footed super boot, delivers for the Wellington Phoenix. And it is the opening goal, first of the season at Allianz Stadium for the visiting team. And a 2nd career goal for Armiento against Sydney FC. And they lead 1-0.
Well, it's come on the Harvey Norman replay from this free kick. And the free kick that followed, it's not in the Eli Adams class, but it's just as effective. Heavy deflection to play Harrison Devin Ishmaels out of the moment. Off the wall and in. Carlo Armiento suggests, celebrates that goal. And I think, on balance, it's a goal that Wellington deserve.
Well, he's shown his value to the team too, because he was out suspended for the Adelaide game after a red card against the Brisbane Roar. Restored to the 11, and he's fired in for the 4th time this season. Carlo Armiento always loomed as one of Phoenix's most dangerous players coming into this match. And that makes things very interesting, because off the back of an excellent save from Eamon McCarron, Wellington have taken the lead at the other end. And Sydney FC's best football of the match so far has been followed by them conceding the opening goal. The home fans who've waited for many months to come back to an A-League afternoon at Allianz, now we'll be hoping the home team can orchestrate a comeback from this deficit. Here's Ocon Jr. Kisbay, the touch on, doesn't quite sit up for Wood. Hughes made the ball his own. Clearing from right back is Payne. Piper and Eze combined to good force. And now Fiani Eze is going to shoot from distance, but he scuffed it.
Well, his name was in lights. In his mind, at least. And he had 2 good support players, Armiento to his left and Nazarene to his right.
Alex Grant. Garuccio goes for a dash, a looping ball. Campuzano was in between 2 of the Phoenix defenders, out for a corner. Now let's go back to this free kick, Andy. Here's the organisation of the wall. Campuzano starts on the right, then he gets rearranged all the way over to go to the left, then he gets dragged back into the middle. They just couldn't agree on who stood where in the wall, and sure enough, it deflected off the wall in.
So a dog's breakfast, basically, is what you're suggesting.
I'm not suggesting to that extent, but maybe in the panic of the moment they had to come up with a plan that maybe wasn't the best one possible. Here's a resulting corner to make it something of a moot point and find an equaliser. Tisserand can't wrestle out of a 1-on-2. Yuli and Draker James rising to the header. Eze holds off Quintal, and now he can break away. Going through the gears here. Iviani Eze sees Nazarene, sets it out in front. Is he going to keep it in? Just. And the flag's up. Well, I think Rami Nazarene had a case that he kept it in, but the assistant referee, Brad Wright, is perfectly placed to look down the line.
I agree. It looked, from our vantage point, that he'd kept it in, but a horribly overhit pass from Eze. Underhit the shot in the previous charge, overhits the pass. So having learnt one lesson from that second but last attack, he couldn't quite make the adjustment. I mean, that's 33 minutes in, a chance for Wellington to go 2 up away from home against the team that with a win can go top of the pops. Huge blow from Eza, who's been his typical self, very good in the one-on-one exchanges, very boisterous. He and Piper causing all sorts of trouble. Just lacked that little bit of quality then when it was needed, and it wasn't a huge ask actually.
Quintal, Hong Jr., Garuccio, Kispe, Quintal running at 2 defenders here and able to draw in the challenge from Sheridan that puts it behind for a corner kick.
Yeah, he's very tricky. Tiago Quintal, he's getting better with the more minutes. And Sydney just haven't been able to set consistent attacks in that final third and let Kispe get into some sort of rhythm. He linked nicely with Quintal then.
So the resulting corner, swinger, free header for Alex Grant, but he didn't steer it goal bound. Instead, straight into the pack of players that were standing alongside him. Allows Isaac Hughes to clear. The final 10 minutes of regulation in the first half. Wellington Phoenix, when scoring first this season, I'm sure their fans would be well aware, 3 wins and a draw when scoring first. So they'll be hoping that that holds up. They haven't won at this venue since January 2023. It was the remarkable game where Sydney FC had 2 late penalties and Oleg Sale foiled Adam Lafondra on both of them. I was shocked to see that date. Don't forget games like that quickly, and it felt like it was a lot more recent. I'm sure Eamon McCarron will be hoping he doesn't have to face 2 penalty kicks at any point today. Never mind 2 in stoppage time. And Drake James to Carlo Armiento. He's got Sheridan breaking down the left. Armiento uses him now. Sheridan. Everything slows down a bit. The Sydney FC defence gets set. Midfielders behind the ball. James evading Piero Kispe. Flips the ball into no man's land, really, and it's underrun by Eze.
Now what was emerging as a wonderful attacking opportunity for Wellington came a croffer because Carlo Armiento just took too many touches. And at that moment, when he picks the ball up inside Sydney's half, that's when you've got to have in the back of your mind a clip of Juan Mata, because he gets the ball in that situation and feeds the winger immediately, keeps the momentum going, doesn't give the Sydney defenders and midfielders an opportunity to get back goal side just by getting rid of the ball earlier.
Think about the quality of Juan Mata, not to harp on it for any Victory fans watching, but the disallowed goal for Matt Grimaldi at the end of last night, and the Juan Mata assist, the first time touch from him to pass it into Grimaldi's path. Amazing level of quality. It's the sort of thing Sydney FC are hoping for from their attack, but maybe Route 1 will suit them better. Not on this occasion. Capithano caught well behind. Bouncing ball as it ran on to McCarron. Kazuki Nagasawa happy to hold up possession, and look at the entire Sydney front line before feeding it to Isaac Hughes. He's going to find a gap to exploit. Hughes. And he's just going to take the territory on offer, still venturing forward, and then perhaps let the ball run a little bit too far out in front of himself. And he's going to protest to the referee here as Nazarene commits a foul on Ocon Jr.
Well, from a Sydney viewpoint, that's an alarming an alarming opening of a gap bigger than the Sydney Heads, as it were, for Isaac Hughes. Now, is that not a foul on him?
Well,
it's clearly a foul.
Would Sydney argue that his touch was
well, it doesn't matter. He was taking
unretrievable ball after he takes that touch?
Well, he certainly had no chance of retrieving it, having his legs taken away from him. It was clearly a foul.
Guricho. Wood. This is Alex Grant with the back pass, and Nagasawa's going to capitalise. Trying to pop it over the top of Corbin Piper, and then he had his legs taken out, but the referee's right there, barely 2 metres away. Nagasawa can protest, but no whistle.
Well, I think the ref's whistle is like a player coming back from injury. It's on restricted minutes.
Saying there's a low blow capacity.
I mean, really happy for a game to maintain its flow, but the rules of the game.
Often both teams can pick up on when things are being let go and start to push the envelope. We're about to see a big thundering 50-50 or something of that nature as a result, as the players become more emboldened to leave a foot in and see what they can get away with. Guricho. Yuli. Ocon. Chain of passes that hasn't advanced the ball here for the Sky Blues. Again, Yuli looks up the pitch, doesn't see anything that he likes. Wellington will be more than happy to watch this unfold in front of them. The defensive line presses up a little higher. Ocon Jr. And now Ryan Grant. Sheridan first to the ball, and good balance from the Wellington left back to read it, although his pass has driven it straight back into touch. Back to Yuli. The holding pattern resumes. Yuli teasing a long ball, not forthcoming. Ocon, and now the step over. Well, didn't quite work out for Quintal. Kispe argues he was fouled. Home fans find their voice, and the game continues. Oh, and Nazarene scythed down by Yuli, and that is going to draw the ire of the fans and the entire Wellington bench up as one here. An apology from Yuli, but a yellow card's out of the pocket.
Well, the first point of interest to see if there was any interference with Kispe, because a lovely little build-up from Sydney. They've been few and far between. But Kispe in linking again with Quintal. Looked like he was nearly through. Now, did he go down with some serious intervention or a feather touch? I think what played out after that was pretty clear to see. Here's the work. He certainly made a lot of it, but Timmy Payne has reached out and got a handful of it. Nazarene, oh jeez, that's right on the edge, that from Reece Yuli.
That explains the Phoenix bench's reaction, because it's happened right in front of them.
Now, it's below the level of the ankle. They've got this sort of threshold, which apparently was ignored last week with the Ocon one. But that's below the ankle, if that matters. That looked not nice.
Tale's received a yellow card as well. Daniel Garb is got a bird's eye view here. The referee's going to brandish a red. Yuli is sent off. Well, I'm not sure of the process of how we got there, whether it was the referee just reassessing on the fly after speaking to Brad Wright, his assistant, or whether there was more from the VAR booth, but the end result is that Reece Yuli has been shown a red card. And Sydney FC are down to 10 players. Yuli is devastated. Let's throw it down to the sideline. Daniel Garby's been watching all this unfold with an earshot. Garby, take us into the madness.
Well, Wellington were adamant. That had to be a red card and nothing else. The entire bench, as you said, Teo, was up as soon as they saw the challenge, and they refused to sit down after they saw the replay. They knew there only had to be one outcome from their point of view, and that was a red ticket for Rhys Yuli. And I'm not sure there can be too many arguments from the Sydney FC bench. The foot was raised, the studs were up, and they caught pretty high. And Wellington thought there was no outcome but a red card. So a massive talking point to win this first half, to go with the goal as well. We'll dissect all of that at half-time, along with a special guest. We can tell you Tim Zoo will join us. The Zoos have been in the news in the last 48 hours because of the major controversy in Australian sport, of course, that being the Michael Zarafa bout with the Kita Zoo that was called off in the most controversial of circumstances. So looking forward to chatting with Tim Zoo about that and more at half-time.
I wonder which bench gets him for the second half, Garby. They might both be trying to recruit him. Wow, what drama. Here's Nazarene. He's back up after the red card. And dinks down. Defended away. Off the hip of Armiento. Now Rufa fouled. And there's afters here. Tensions are really starting to come to the boil. Andy Harper, the officials need to take control of the game. There's still 4 minutes of additional time to win this first half.
Well, are we entering into the territory of which you foretold about the lack of intervention from referees and players then creeping, and things getting a little out of control? You could build a case for that, Teo. The littlest of moments has been more problematic contacts than that in this game, but it's the small ones that often lead to the little conflagrations.
And Alex Rufa is now on a yellow card as well, so much to keep track of here. Who's walking the tightrope? Campazano's having his say. There's been actions, recriminations, players with long memories. Not a great deal of football played so far through the first of the 4 additional minutes either. Campazano's making his case. Andy Harper, there's the initial foul, and then Rufa. Well, I'm not really sure what Campazano has done to injure himself so badly.
He's doubling down on his claims. I think Alex Rufa's better just to walk away. He's won that duel.
It is Phoenix's free kick, even though Rufa the player booked. And so a couple of quick passes between the centre-backs. So we focus back on the scoreline, which is 1-0. Phoenix also with a player advantage, and Piper is able to win a corner. Well, if they score a second before half-time, the Allianz fans are going to be less than pleased as the home side comes off at the break.
Just looking at that Rhys Yuli challenge on replay, maybe what killed him was that the first contact actually was on the knee of the other leg, not the ankle that he ended up catching. I wonder if that is what enabled the match officials to cross that threshold.
Rufa's yellow was for unsporting behaviour, inciting the melee, so that does make sense. But it's Phoenix who have a corner, and Armiento is swinging it to the back post. First header for Corbin Piper, very hard to do anything with it, and it sails out. Sydney FC will have to mull over potential substitutions, what formation they'll bring into the second half, chasing the game. Wellington Phoenix in an enviable position, unbeaten when scoring first so far this A-League season, and a player advantage to go with it. Pat Wood dispossessed. Sheridan. Devin Ishmears has come out a long way off his line, and if Yanni Eze, the league's best, you could argue, at chasing a lost cause there, got a little grazing touch on that ball, trying to intercept Devonish Mears' clearance. Into the final 30 seconds of the original 4 minutes. We may go beyond it, given the ball wasn't in play for a fair old chunk of it. Kisbay. Alex Grant. And a pass that Payne will size up and clear first time. Onto the head of Kisbay, but running onto Eze. Eze turns. Najarine. Cutting central. Wanting to switch flanks. Sheridan. Armiento in the pocket. Armiento holds fire. Nagasawa. One more cross. Eze was leaping late. Good defending, though, from Alex Grant. Sheridan. Piper. And can't steer the header on target. Out it goes. He's hoping for a corner, but not to be for Corbin Piper. And the halftime whistle goes. One last look at the late chance here for Piper. He headed wide. And the first half ends with Wellington Phoenix in front, thanks to a deflected free kick from Carlo Armiento. His 4th goal of the season. Giancarlo Italiano quickly down the tunnel. He's got a big halftime team talk, but it's an even bigger one for the Sydney FC gaffer Ufuk Talay. The red card to Reece Yuli means Sydney FC at a man disadvantage at present. And they will need to find something special to turn this around on their return to Allianz Stadium in the second half. As things stand, it's Sydney FC 0, Wellington Phoenix 1. On the other side of the break, Daniel Garb and Andy Harper will break it all down and look at an action-packed first half. We'll see you soon.
Sydney FC back at Allianz Stadium, but this is not the first 45 they would have hoped for at their true home. Down a man, Reece Yuley sent off in the first half, and Wellington are 1-0 up to go with it. Welcome to the Hungry Jacks halftime show. Great to be with you. Daniel Garb here alongside Andy Harper. Harps all smiles for Wellington in that first 45.
I thought they were good value for their league, Garby. I thought they were excellent. Sydney really didn't handle the energy that Wellington brought to the game. And this, you never quite know what you're going to get with Wellington, a bit inconsistent. But this change in approach from season one with Chiefy when they sat back and hit teams on the counter, this is the complete opposite of that. They're pressing Sydney. Sydney have had no answer, and it's provided a great foundation for them to lead this football match.
Let's take a look at the Harvey Norman highlights. They really settled into the game well early on, the Wellington Phoenix. There's been a form resurgence over the last 4 or 5 weeks for them. They showed that confidence early on. And Carly Armiento, with a little bit of assistance, let's be honest, from the wall, got them going with the free kick.
Look, and I'm not 100% convinced that was a free kick in the first place. So there's been a couple of really controversial talking points that have changed the game. This was one of them. Armiento's been dangerous before this and after this. That it took a deflection from that set piece shouldn't take away from his general contribution, nor should it deflect from what I think has basically been Wellington's dominance. Sydney have had a couple of good chances, but I think most people watching, those without a vested interest, would think that the visiting team have put on a performance that is not reflecting the competition table at the moment.
So the longer the half wore on, so did Sydney FC's frustrations. And it culminated in this, Reece Yuley sticking a leg out and getting a red card. Your thoughts?
Well, first, one of the things I'd like to know is what was the process for the upgrade? So referee gives the yellow card for the challenge. We're told that there's a threshold. If it goes above the ankle, then it's not going to be a red card. Well, that was out the window last week with Paul Ocon's. That seems to be below that ankle high threshold, if such a thing actually exists. But that's what we've been sort of feeding off. At any rate, it was a bad tackle. I can't complain about it. I don't think many Sydney people would either, apart from the fact that it puts their team in the hole.
Perhaps the kind of challenge that belongs in a boxing ring. Tim Zhu will join us in a moment. Looking forward to getting his thoughts on All Matters Boxing. Carlo Armiento leading the Paramount Plus Player Index. A couple of Sydney FC players figuring there as well. But it is the Wellington Phoenix who lead 1-0. Sydney FC down a man. I'm delighted to say that Tim Zhu has joined us now pitchside. Tim, great to see you wearing the Sydney FC shirt. It's been a big week for you, and we'll get on to some of the controversies around the Zhu family in a moment. But firstly, you've spent the week with Sydney FC. Talk us through it. You did a crossbar challenge and some other things with the boys.
And I got it.
Well done.
I smashed it. And it was unexpected. I didn't know how I got it, but I got it in, and I was pretty proud.
What does this football club mean to you? Do you have a long association with the club and with the game itself?
Mark Bosnich. I'm good friends with Mark Bosnich. He was actually training at my gym. And my dad and Mark were good friends. So I remember always coming and sometimes watching the games. So yeah, always a Sydney FC fan.
Love it. We've got to talk about the big story in Australian sport. So Michael Zarafa taking on your brother, and a controversy to say the absolute least. The fight was called off in the most dubious of circumstances. You claimed you couldn't see, and a lot of people debate whether that was the case or not. A couple of days on, how's it sitting with you and the family?
Yeah, look, I haven't spoken to my brother about it, but during the time I was very emotional. I sort of went on a rampage. I was ready to punch on. If you've seen it. But yeah, I think for the magnitude of the event, for how big the fight was, I feel like he could have continued. Who knows what he felt. But at that given time, I think he made a very, very bad mistake, and it's gonna cost him probably his career.
Tim brings the referees in the boxing ring, but in the football field, right into the discussion. We've had that here today with the send-off. Sydney been frustrated in the first half. Take the boxing ring, not physically, but metaphorically, into the Sydney dressing room at the moment. How do you deal with the frustration of an opponent who may have you cornered and you're finding it hard to get out of that corner?
It's a good question. Good question. I think in a team sport, I think the boys just have to sort of connect all together, be able to breathe in and out, and then find a solution, all connect us together and find a way to win.
Tim, what we got you, we've managed to collate some of the best A-League fights of recent times. We just want to see if there's anyone you might think has a future in the ring? Just looking at some of these brawls that have taken place in recent times. I mean, Brisbane have been renowned as a very physical side, so they're in the thick of a fair bit of it.
Yeah, yeah.
It gets a little bit angsty, as you can see.
Oh, that was all right. A bit like a bit of the rugby boys.
Now, this is one of the more famous ones of recent times. There's a couple of quick jabs here you might see.
Oh, yeah. That was
pretty sharp.
That was a little hand one.
And this was Jason Davidson taking on 5 Sydney players at once. This is more Royal Rumble than boxing, I think. So that's a big blow.
That's the way to go. I think the all-time favourite is Zidane.
Yes.
He did it properly, you know. If you're going to do it properly.
Cost his team a World Cup. It's certainly memorable. Mate, been so good having you with us. Thanks so much for joining us.
Pleasure.
Enjoy the rest of the game.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, mate.
Tim Zoo, what a champion. This has been the Hungry Jacks halftime show. Plenty more to look at and look out for, of course, on Paramount Plus and Network 10 over the next few days in football. Celtic are in action in the Scottish Cup 4th round. We've got under-23 Asian Cup semi-final action. So disappointing that our young Socceroos aren't in the semi-finals, of course. Japan will take on Korea Republic. Perhaps the decision went against the Aussies in that quarter-final. Korea moved through. China and Vietnam, a big game in the other semi. And then, of course, next weekend, it'll be Newcastle up against Wellington to launch another round of A-League action. And we've got some massive games coming up as well. The Sydney Derby is a couple of weeks away. Speaking to Joe Lolly, who's not too far away from us at the moment. He hopes to be back for that fixture. Sydney FC certainly need him at the moment, that is for sure. And there is a big blue coming up on Australia Day, as always. That promises to be a massive encounter. Make sure you get your tickets for that one. You can see it all live on Paramount Plus and Network 10. The second half between Sydney FC and the Wellington Phoenix not too far away. The Knicks lead 1-0 at the break.
Rollins. And it's 2 for victory. What a header. Nikos Vergos has thundered it in.
Joe Lolly in possession. Lolly still going. He doesn't need any help. Joe Lolly, Sydney FC's man of the moment.
Welcome back to live pictures from Allianz Stadium. Both teams out on the pitch for the start of the second half. Sydney FC with the first half red card to Reece Yuley, and they've responded with a double substitution to start the second 45. Alexander Popovic for the second game in a row, coming on at halftime for Marcel Tisserand, and Corey Holman has been subbed on for Thiago Quintal. So Holman, more of a control-oriented midfielder than the creative Quintal. And we'll see how Sydney FC's formation and style change as a result, because it's 10 versus 11, and Carlo Armiento's deflected free kick is the difference between the two teams at the start of the second half in this round 13 Isuzu UTE A-League men's clash between Sydney FC and Wellington. Wellington looking to win their first game away to Sydney FC here at Allianz Stadium in 2 years and 2 weeks. Grant will be trying to keep the damage to 1 goal conceded in this second half of the home side, but they need to find their scoring touch and start creating if they want to get back in the game. Here's Corey Holman making an instant impact, and Pat Wood, well, he broke central, the ball broke towards the sideline. What will Wellington Phoenix's approach be? They've got plenty of veteran heads on the bench today, including Paolo Retre, who's 32 years of age, Nikola Mileušnić, and also potential debutant, the 45-cap New Zealand international Bill Tuiloma. Back from a long time overseas, more than a decade in Europe, playing for Marseille and Strasbourg, and then in MLS. The ground announcer confirming those 2 halftime changes. So a different looking Sydney FC, and Wellington coughing up the ball here. Holman to Wood, Ryan Grant, and now Ocon Jr. Piero Quispe traps the ball and wheels back out to the right side of the pitch where Ryan Grant is waiting. Grant to Popovic. When asked last week, Ufuk Talay said he subbed off Tisserand for Popovic at halftime because Tisserand needed to be maintained through a busy fixture. So for the second game in a row, he's made way at halftime, and Popovic, who was starved for minutes prior to last week, coming on at halftime for the second game in a row. Here's Piper, Nagasawa, and Ifiani Eze. And a little tap at the ankles from Quispe draws a foul, and as Andy Harper joins me for the second half. Harps, we're going to see a very different game now that it's 11 versus 10.
Well, that depends on Wellington, actually, Teo. Do they sit on the lead and the extra man, which was the way Chiefy navigated season 1 of his tenure in that very impressive finals run? They've since changed their approach. You could forgive him for thinking we've got the points now, they're ours to lose, let's shut up shop. But I think actually the best thing for him, not just today, but for the rest of the season, is to keep building on what they've been trying to achieve. That extra player, make the most of it. Don't let Sydney play out from the back. You can push up in that press now in a one-on-one situation. Sydney have no free players. It's a real opportunity for Wellington to actually double down, and that intervention there from Nagasawa, I think he's been outstanding. It just gets not a lot of the limelight. Ishige, the now injured Wellington Phoenix Japanese import, attracts a lot more of the limelight, but he has been peerless today, Nagasawa, in my opinion.
And the Phoenix control of midfield was one of the features of that first half, which frustrated Sydney FC so much. Here's Campazano, dropping a little deeper than number 9, Pat Wood. He's got Corey Holman on the right. Holman, a deflected cross, dealt with by Hughes, and back out from whence it came.
And then, of course, the other side of that coin is Sydney at home. A great list of players. They're having a really strong season. They've played some great football this campaign, not so much today. But this is a big test for them, and they can get a lot out of a positive second half, which is well within their capacity, despite the difficulties of being that player down.
Well, it would be quite a team-lifting turnaround if, with a man down, they come back to win, and their reward would be top spot on the table, but it feels a lot further away than just saying it at the moment. Campazano's header, an awkward bounce. Mandrake James leapt up, headed straight back to Campazano. Patwood arriving, and a desperate lunge from Isaac Hughes. It was a moot point as the flag is up for offside.
That's excellent from Hughes. Patwood, who's toiled today, some clever things. Campazano probably entitled to just provide a little more. That's a heavy touch from the Spaniard, and he had drifted offside. Patwood, an unfortunate accidental touch, miscontrol from Campazano, brought the attack to heel, but it's great coverage from Hughes. He's been very good today as well. Not a poor player for Wellington, actually. Very pleasing for Chiefy and the boys.
Hughes going about his business, up to 42 appearances at just 21 years of age. Here's Nazarene. Rufer for Sheridan. Alex Rufer on a yellow card from the first half. Payne to James. Now here is Hughes. Back with Rufer where the move started. Slips as he tries to hit a long diagonal ball. Sydney FC can launch a counter here. Kisbay wants to send it left. Campazano, Wood making an underlapping run. Pat Wood ushered away from the penalty area. Kisbay. Wood, the 1-2 with Garuccio. Pat Wood wants his right foot. And he prods it back out. Kisbay whips it in. Sheridan's clearance finds safe passage, found his captain, and Rufer sends away Corbin Piper, and now he's got Popovic to contend with. Corbin Piper, if he only has a motoring forward, he's run a mile offside. Piper kept the ball, found Rami Nazarene instead, and Nazarene at the moment of truth is blocked away by Popovic.
Fantastic from the Phoenix, well defended. The cross in from Kisbay was diffused by Wellington. Alex Rufer showing commendable technique and calmness to play the ball out to Piper, who led the charge, did brilliantly to put Nazarene on. In on goal, fell to Nazarene's right foot, and at that point the attack was going nowhere. Not a chance of scoring from there. And Sydney managed to see the danger away. They've had a couple of good opportunities, Wellington, to make their lead even more impressive.
And interestingly there, they took more than a deep breath over resuming play from that throw-in, just wanting to let everyone get their bearings. It was a great opportunity. Eamon McCarron out of his penalty area. Sending a high aimless pass out for a throw-in. Alex Grant. Kisbay. Popovic. And Ryan Grant. Akol Akon has been walked up next to the fourth official, so Sydney FC have one change waiting. The young striker will be the next player to enter the game. Doesn't turn 17 until May. Extraordinary opportunity. He's got to bide his time because Sydney are on the attack. If they do score here, they might send him back to the bench. Here's Garuccio. Garuccio fires, and Mandrake James put his body in the perfect position to send it behind for a corner.
Well, a great opportunity for Sydney. Garuccio just didn't quite have the angle. Alex Rufer miscuing. And the angle, not kind for Garuccio. The shot was certainly goal bound, but it played James into the equation to make the block.
Corner is going to go straight out for a throw-in on the other side of the pitch, so all of that momentum dissipates in an instant. And Sydney will action the substitution. So, having only played 82 minutes in 3 sub-appearances so far, Akol Akon is going to be given a good chunk of time here to make an impact, the 16-year-old. Just his 4th appearance in the A-League, and he's coming on for Pat Wood here. Wood, who's been lively and really run himself into the ground. But Uvuk Tale has decided a change of approach is needed. And on comes the 16-year-old. Holman's header. Sheridan. Ryan Grant onto the head of Rufo. And away goes Corbin Piper. Popovic goes to ground. Piper kept his feet. Corbin Piper jags onto his right side. Shot on target, but not the power to trouble Devonish Mears. And then he slips with the clearance. And Akol Akon's first touch is watching it go out of play.
My goodness, the blinkers on Piper. It's a brilliant run. Look at the queue of Wellington players amassing outside. Piper now, look, there's 3 of them. A toe poke to any of them. You could even miss-hit your toe poke and still find one. And Sydney on the rack. A reprieve for the Sky Blues. He's been so good today. So good.
Wellington go again, though. Armiento, left-footed drive. Catches 2 deflections, the last one off a Sydney FC player. And it's a corner kick. You're right, though, Harbs. They should have had more. It was a great opportunity to double their lead. Upper man. They still have the ball down the right end as far as they're concerned. And just their 3rd corner of the game. A really healthy away contingent of Wellington fans, both travellers and Australian-based fans that have an affinity for the yellow and black.
Wait for these restarts to accrue, but they're in no rush to get this game back underway.
Armiento's corner hooked in at the near post, and Holman's had it volleyed into him. It's going to be consecutive corners. He had no chance of doing anything about that. Armiento, consecutive corners. And Devonish Mears breaks the hands, but he's first at the recovery to hold on. Holman. Crowd rise, Campithano. And now Alex Grant. Oh! Struck it with some venom. The centre back venturing forward. Hasn't scored since November of 2022 in the A-League.
It's a beautiful little bit of work from Akol. Corey Holman's pass left a lot to be desired. And then the former Perth Glory man, I thought, was going to give us an Alex Sushinyar Perth Glory moment. The left foot from distance at this stadium, outside the box. Grant couldn't quite navigate inside the target.
So Ife Arieze, a bit like Pat Wood, a lot of effort, but not much by way of clear-cut chances to score. He takes his leave, and Paolo Retre comes on. Almost at the hour mark here, our Sydney FC starting to grow in confidence that being at a player disadvantage is not as big a disadvantage as they may have initially believed. Retre, first impression is to win possession but then trip over the ball. Popovic. Campithano with a neat touch to Kisbay. Looking for Akol Akon. Akon makes a presence. And Hughes. Campithano got in and asked a question of the referee. Akon is going to get himself yellow carded for dissent. He's gesticulating to the referee. Too much.
Well, it's a break right through midfield. Didn't see much of that. Cole says he was fouled there. So does Campazano. I can't see a foul then on either Sydney player. I think that's well refereed. We don't know what Cole said or didn't say, so we can't comment on that. Interesting the change for Wellington. Eze off. Nagasawa on, but Nagasawa has now gone into the front line. Paolo Retre, his replacement, goes into midfield. And at the second time of asking, the job that Nagasawa has been doing so brilliantly could not be done by Retre.
And here is Nagasawa in his newly cast position. Sheridan working with Retre. Shoulder bump. Campazano. Sydney FC's throw. Ryan Grant says, I'll take it. Wants to grab another 5 metres as well, but the referee steers him back. Grant's pass. Looking for Akola Khan, but it runs under his foot. Down to McCarron. With Mandraker James waiting for the ball. Alex Rufer, the space to turn, switches over to Sheridan on the left. Retre. Shouts for a foul from Najarine, and again a belated whistle just as Sydney thought they were away. The whistle does go. Wide free kick for Wellington.
Well, foul, no foul, but the decisions are late. It's certainly getting under the skin of the locals who are watching.
Total foul count in the game. Sydney with twice as many as Wellington so far. A long anticipation over this set piece. And Payne will take it. Rufer in space. Jags left. Lifts it across, and it's 2 for Wellington. Isaac Hughes. What a time for the Phoenix to make it 2. And the away bay, joyous scenes as boos ring out the rest of the stadium. But the visiting Phoenix will not care one jot. A third A-League goal for the 21-year-old centre-back.
Well, on the Harvey Norman replay, all players on side from the free kick, not dealt with by Sydney. Alex Grant gets the first clearance. And very clever bit of play. Alex Rufer's first touch to set himself to shoot, inadequate. But his repechage moment was excellent. Here, the ball just bobbles away. He's fancying a shot, but he resets it nicely. And better expected from Alex Popovic there, one-on-one. Beaten very easily. And a beautiful, beautiful little ding from Rufer. And Hughes with the reward, and Wellington with the reward. They've now doubled their lead, and they've threatened to do this on plenty more occasions before now.
And so Isaac Hughes finds the back of the net for the Wellington Phoenix, and you saw him there in the celebration kicking the corner flag off the post, and he went and tried to put it back. But in the excitement of that moment. Wellington Phoenix have doubled their lead in Sydney FC. With the odds firmly against them. Akon, can he get an instant reply? Holman! Blocked away by Mandrake James. And the drive across the face from Campuzano. And the ball goes out for a throw-in. And Mandrake James stays down.
Well, you know it's not your day. I don't know how Mandrake, he doesn't know anything about this. It's gone straight into him. Now there should be concern for his safety, his welfare, because that's a rattler. And it's certainly going in the goal. He saved one for sure, even if he didn't know much about it. But that's heavy contact. Great chance for Sydney. They're not out of it. Sky Blues, too many good players on the field, despite the circumstances, to rule them out. And that certainly would have helped. But Mandrake James rewarded for at least the instinctive run to the line. And then Corey Holman's effort blasted straight into his box.
Mashing his nose into his face, but he's absolutely back up and okay. No blood, which is a relief. Check the teeth, make sure everything's still there. There's going to be a substitution of a different player. Rami Nazarene comes off. Finn Roaconchi comes on. There's Nazarene leaving the game. Of course, it was he who was fouled by Reece Yuli in the first half to draw the red card. 20 minutes into this second half. It's Wellington who've since doubled their lead. Not without some chances for Sydney FC though. Junior. Can Sydney FC take heart from how close they came to scoring just a moment ago? Kisbay squeezing past the Phoenix midfield and gets the return ball from Akon. Akon Jr. to Popovic. Ryan Grant has got Corey Holman in support. Grant. Garuccio. Popovic hoping to bend it into the path of Akon. Mandrake James has barely lost anything from that moment ago where he absorbed the full force of the ball to his face, but he's shaking it off with aplomb. Here's how the live ladder looks. Auckland would be staying top as things stand. Kisbay chasing the cut across. McCarron short-handed. Campuzano was waiting for a bobble. It never arrived.
Just not quite able to pull that ball back enough. Kisbay was a tempter and tantalisingly close. Campuzano changing the direction of his run to try and get there. He'd started too far back in the field, which is why that ball from Kisbay needed just a little bit more angle on it.
Ryan Grant. Grant had that sider on goal earlier in the half, which went just wide of the target. Akon Jr. Kisbay. Quick 1-2. Holman. Stout midfield defending work from Roa Conchi and then Rattray, one after the other. As we tick towards 20 minutes of regulation to go. Kisbay, the pass not to his liking, just a little behind him, but he still recovered the ball. Popovic. Recon Jr. Diagonal ball, asking a lot of Garuccio, but he makes ground and surveys the penalty area with only one sky blue shirt in it initially. Now more support arrives. Akolakon leaves the ball. Kisbay still working. And a shot on the turn. Well wide of the target in the end.
Well, the more Kisbay can come into things for Sydney, you just fancy the more their chances will be.
That tackle from Finro Akonji was crunching, but he's back to his feet, seemingly okay. Going to have a big role if Sydney FC want to grab back one of these goals. Nagasawa to Corbin, Piper. Grand went to ground. Holman. Popovic immediately had Nagasawa on his case, but Ocon actually was there in support. Now a sprint for the ball. Akolakon turns and faces the penalty area. Payne. Akon. Garuccio's cross. Alex Grant has to consolidate. Campazano in the pocket, and he was closed down from all points of the compass. There were Phoenix players scrambling to get to him, and he just gifted the ball back.
Tim Payne looks like he's had enough for the day, or at least feels like this momentum for Sydney, which has been growing, needs to be broken. And he has had a long time out with injury. Tim Payne going for the pickle juice.
And Giancarlo Italiano with Lucas Kelly-Heald standing next to him. Fullback for fullback. Are we about to see that change actioned? Kelly-Heald's been more or less ever present until today. Confusion reigns. Is Payne off or not?
Looks like it. He's making a long walk back behind the goal. And now back on the field. So no, more time bought.
Kelly-Heald's got the bib off and he's still bouncing around in the technical area, but the fourth official's not lifting the board. The ball is back live and it's in the hands of Eamon McCarron for now.
A little bit of dark arts from Chiefy there. Tim Payne was walking around the back of the goal.
Well, I saw the piece of paper for the substitution quickly get run back to the bench.
Oh, so maybe not yet. Maybe not quite the dark arts.
We'll see how Payne's moving the next time he's tested by a Sydney forward foray, which might be coming right here. If Mandrake James has a say in it, the ball breaks kindly for Rufer. He was caught from the blind side by Campazano. James made the ball his own again. Crunching challenge, and Roa Conchi follows up. Popovic, the back pass to Devonish Mears. Looks like it's going to be Kelly-Heald and Bill Tuiloma for an A-League debut. Both players are stripped and ready at the next break and play. Campazano, Kisbay. Popovic directing traffic as he takes possession. Ryan Grant from the wing. And Popovic continued his run, but Corey Holman broke out of the way. And the ball just bounces on to McCarron. No shot to save. There's the double change waiting in the wings. Piper is going to take the game on single-handedly. Look at the speed of Corbin Piper. He breaks down the right. Nagasawa receives the cutback, and a vital block comes in from Popovic again. That's 2 in this half, where he has been massive.
Well, that's a lung burster from Corbin Piper. And didn't he blitz him down the track? He leaves Garuccio for dead. Ben stayed in the race, though, which was really important. Popovic there in the end to block from Nagasawa. A goal for the Japanese player would have been just reward, given his output today.
And it was Corbin Piper's last act of the game. So on comes Lucas Kelly healed. Tim Payne does leave the game on the outer side of the pitch. Carlo Armiento, scorer of the first goal, is going to be coming off, and Nikola Mileusnic is coming on. And then the third change. Scanning the eyes around. It's Armiento, Piper and Payne, and Bill Tuiloma does come on to make his first appearance in the Isuzu UTE League at 30 years of age, 45 cap New Zealand international. No doubt with ambitions of getting to the World Cup in a country he played a long time in, the United States. And Harps, it's a great pickup and a credit to Wellington that they've used the lure of home and plenty of game time to get him into the A-League for the very first time.
Well, if he can add to what they've put on today, then things are looking up for the Phoenix. They've been very, very solid today. Mileusnic needing to make a point as well, and his speed as Sydney push forward to any vacant space left behind could be telling. He hasn't had a lot of football, though. Sheridan's gone to right fullback, Kelly Hill to left. It's looking like a back 5 for Wellington. We'll see if that's the way it's shaping up. It's pretty conservative from Chiefy. But the more now they maybe drag Sydney in, the more you'd be inclined to leave Mileusnic just a little further up the field in that space to put it beyond doubt at 3-0, you'd reckon.
Junior. Campazano watched the ball sail over his shoulder, well out of any sort of chase down range. Here's Tuiloma. And now Hughes. James. Bit of afters. Sydney FC are going to make a double change of their own. Jordan Courtney Perkins coming on for the first time since November 2020, November 22 of last year, I should say. And off goes Alex Grant. So Courtney Perkins comes on for his third appearance of the season, and Paul Ocon-Engstler comes off. And it's a great moment, albeit in trying circumstances, for Marin France, the 18-year-old. His first Isuzu UTE A-League appearance. We had seen him twice in Sydney's ACL2 campaign in November and December of 2024. But for the first time, he is on in the A-League. He's a goal-scoring attacking midfielder, number 33, and he netted 7 times in 22 NPL games over the winter. So can he come on and make an instant impact? Here's Akola Khan bringing down a high ball, and it rolls into the gloves of Kelly Hill. Redray running out of defence. Finroa Conchi. Alex Rufa. Nagasawa. Kill from Retre. Courtney Perkins in possession. He's played just 5 total minutes off the bench this season, so a chance here for him. And as we pass the 80-minute mark, it doesn't matter if they're home or away. Phoenix fans, if they're in front, it's shirts off. And the away bay. No afternoon sun to enjoy as shadows extend across the ground, but they're having fun watching this unfold. Here's Nikola Mileušnić now, fresh off the bench. Cuts it inside, and Sheridan not able to advance any further.
Heavy touch, but that's the speed in behind that Nikola Mileušnić can bring and settle this game in favour of Wellington. As Sydney push forward, turning for the last 10 minutes plus stoppages. You know, Sydney really need to just find a little bit more movement, or a lot more movement. A little bit more energy if that's what's missing. They've been outpointed today, playing with a man less. Hasn't helped, but how often, it should be said, Teo, does going a man down actually not punish a team?
As McCarron leads with his head, even though he might have still been inside his penalty area. Here's Marin France. And now Campazano from distance, and a good save. McCarron showing his talents.
Really thrown himself around today. Copped that one in the Barry Gibbs in the first half, a really heavy blow. The first clearance here was with his head. Again, very brave, and this is pounced beautifully.
Let's just check in on the sideline inside the last 10 minutes. Daniel Garb, what's the latest?
Well, it wasn't long ago, was it, that Giancarlo Italiano's position at Wellington was called into question, and perhaps rightfully so after that 5-1 defeat to the Melbourne Victory. He got emotional on that night, didn't he? Defending his football club, defending his players and his staff, adamant that they were synchronised and ready to get things back on track. I guess he's been justified in those claims, the way in which they performed over the last few weeks. A couple of big away wins if things carry on over the next 10 minutes or so as they are right now. Just watching on from the sideline, it does look to be a well-oiled machine at Wellington at the moment.
Here's France. Shot blocked away. Thank you, Garvey, and well observed. And right from the first minute of this game, the Phoenix looked ready with a plan. They looked invested, and as much as the story of this game inevitably will be the red card.
So I'm not understanding why that offside had to be called. Wellington had the ball and were about to counter-attack. There's a break for Sydney, because they might have been exposed then. You get the chance now, the Sky Blues, and a goal for them. They've come back from precarious situations before. A goal can change the balance completely.
And it has been a weekend with some late goals and late drama. None more so than at Cooper's Stadium last night, but fans across the ditch certainly know about Melbourne City's last gasp effort to beat Auckland and compress the league a little bit further. Here's Campazano running straight at the defender. Hughes not letting anything past, and his hustle will avoid conceding a corner here. Flickena, Rufa in the right spot. Phoenix not opposed to a bit of stop-start as they defend, and now Ryan Grant waves players into the penalty area. That a long throw is coming. Hoping for Hakon. As far as Courtney Perkins. Kisbey. Garuccio. Now Hakon. Garuccio from his right side onto the head of Mandraker James. It's quite the same level of force as earlier in the half, but how important Mandraker James has been to Wellington's defensive effort today. Akon. In the end, a comfortable one-grab catch for Eamon McCarron. None of the Sydney attackers able to get on the end of the cross. And so into the last 5 minutes of regulation now. The ball hasn't left Phoenix's defensive half for a little while here. Can they build something now? Mile Uznic. Felled, and a yellow card for Alexander Popovic from his foul. So Popovic returns to the centre of defence with a card next to his name. We'll be hoping it's a moot point this late in the afternoon. Tuiloma. James, and now Rattray. Back pass to Devonish Mears. Courtney Perkins. Blocked by Sheridan, who's now operating down the right side for Wellington. The Paramount Plus Player Index has Isaac Hughes having leapfrogged Carlo Armiento. The two goal scorers are 1 and 2. We'll revisit the Paramount Plus Player Index as part of the post-game to see who ends up finishing on top. Two balls on the pitch. And the second one is kicked away. The live one remains at the feet of Alexander Popovic. Ryan Grant. Courtney Perkins. Garuccio. Ryan Grant's run was promising, but he left the ball behind. Zero Conchi runs into the challenge of Garuccio.
Today's attendance, 13,678. Thank you, CFC fans, for joining us for our return to Armiento.
Thrown down the right sideline. Nagasawa. Hughes has Kelly Heald in an acre of space. Lucas Kelly Heald. And now Nagasawa sends it back out to the left wing back. Can't continue his run though. Popovic, Kelly Heald applying the press. France. Akon. Time Sydney's enemy here. 2 minutes of regulation to go. 2 goals behind. Kispe sees the run of Garuccio. Garuccio, great trap. Cuts it back. Akon blocked by Hughes. Immense again from the Phoenix centre-back. Kispe. Garuccio, Holman fired the shot into a sea of players, and just that wall of bodies blocks it away, and now Ryan Grant is going to be blown up for a foul. He protests his innocence. But it's a stoppage that will favour the Wellington Phoenix.
Well, Ben Garuccio, excellent on a couple of occasions. He's probably going goal bound. It hit Campuzano on the way through. Just guilty by being in the vicinity. Ryan Grant there, not much he can do about that.
There's Joe Lolly sitting in the stands. How Sydney FC are missing him. Their form had been good enough to take them to within a win of going top today, but looks like a chance that has slipped through the fingers. McCarron slips. The ball does find its way into Phoenix's attacking half, and Sheridan. Quick exchange of headers now. Rattray. Kispe able to break it with the ball. Still Piero Kispe. And the cross is defended away by Tuiloma. Behind for a corner.
Great endeavour. Very positive from Sydney. Maybe a little bit lacking over the 90 minutes, that sort of endeavour. But Kispe, excellent. Garuccio, excellent. Can they find a goal, Sydney, to stir things up for the remaining minutes?
The height of Kelly Heald coming in very handy there as he heads it behind for a corner on the opposite side. And the fourth official has signalled that there will be 4 additional minutes for Sydney FC to keep chasing something out of today's game.
Well, some quick action required from Sydney, or this return home to this magnificent stadium is going to be a very, very flat experience for their fans.
Phoenix defence deal with the corner. Grant twisting back in the second ball. Rufus header. Kispe. Garuccio in the broken play finds himself over on the right side of Sydney's attack. Uses his left foot. Ryan Grant heads it across. There's the goal back. And the flag is up. Disappointment for Popovic. No chance to celebrate. It's chalked off.
Well, looking at Ryan Grant's recovery run now, I think he knew he was offside clearly. It's a good cushion header and well anticipated by Popovic, but clearly offside.
Futale, no chance to celebrate the goal. Flag was up in an instant. Holman to a con. Kispe. Popovic. Runners breaking ahead of the ball. Popovic slows things down though and steers it back. Devonish Mears stepping up into the midfield. Half of stoppage time has expired. Akon. To the edge of the box he goes. And he does draw a corner kick.
Well, a good positive play by Akon. He's forcing the defenders back and then to intervene to his advantage. Kept the momentum going, kept the defenders backpedaling and won the day.
Corner taken short. Akon. Lots of touches for him since coming on. That cross repelled away though. Rattray knew exactly where Kelly Heald was. That was clever. Kelly Heald keeps his feet. He's caught by the backtracking Marin France though. Popovic. And Tuiloma stops the ball, making its way to Campazano. Into the last minute of the additional 4 then. Wellington trying to close out just their 3rd win at this venue. 1 against Sydney FC, 1 in Unite round. And it'll be their first time against Sydney FC here since January of 2023. More than 3 years ago now. Even if Sydney FC score now, it might only be cosmetic repair, but a giveaway means that the Phoenix might get a whole lot more. Not to be. It was bombs away from Mille, wasn't it, on the halfway line, and he skewed it well wide.
Well, it's not going to affect the 3 points. It might be their goal difference. But he toes that around the keeper. He can walk it half the way up the field.
And the full-time whistle goes on a statement win for the Wellington Phoenix. Look what it means to Isaac Hughes. They have spoiled the homecoming for Sydney FC. First game of the season, at Allianz Stadium, but it's Wellington who scored the only 2 goals either side of a red card, which did have a huge say in how the second half played out. But the Phoenix continue to climb the table. They take 2 more positions today, and Sydney FC, the chance to go top of the league, passes them by. And on a weekend where Auckland slipped up, Sydney FC are unable to capitalise. Instead, it's Wellington who take all 3 points. And in a game which had high tensions, it's Sporting at full time. The end of Sydney FC 0, Wellington Phoenix 2. So, Carlo Armiento's deflected free kick in the first half, and then a header from Isaac Hughes in the second. Armiento started the day as the only member of the starting 11 for Wellington that had a career goal against Sydney FC, and sure enough it was him that popped up